Your boy Papa Show is back running it solo this week. I got a couple of things to talk about today that I kind of wanted to get something in here on this Saturday. We got UFC 317 tonight. I am planning to go live for UFC 317, kind of do like a little bit of pre-show. Might go live after, just dependent on how the night goes and what's going on. But I do plan on going live before the fight, so tune in, and I'll give you my predictions before the main card goes live, just as I did with UFC 316. A lot going on in the MMA world, of course, as always, especially in the middle of the year, International Fight Week, all that good stuff. Very excited to talk about that. Got to talk about the Chiefs a little bit here today, and the Royals as well, with the whole situation going on with Kansas and Missouri, fighting over where the teams are going to go, where everything's going to end up. Do the Chiefs stay at Arrowhead? Do the Chiefs move? Do they go to Kansas? Do the Royals move? I think that's a foregone conclusion, but we'll get into that. Are they going to Kansas, or are they staying in Missouri? Where are they going? Are they going north of the river? We don't know. We're going to find out, I think, here in a couple of weeks, but all that and a little bit more in this podcast. So make sure you smash that subscribe button for me if you do enjoy the content. Hit the like button if you enjoy this podcast, and let's get into it. The future of where the Kansas City Chiefs will be playing football at has come back into question this past week, and we'll get plenty more this upcoming week as I'm recording this Friday night, so June 27th. June 30th is when the Star Bonds were set to expire. Of course, the stadium got voted down, or the renovations at least for the Chiefs, and a new stadium in the Crossroads District for the Royals voted down last April, and since then kind of been trying to figure out what we're going to see. The Royals have bought land over in the Kansas area, the old Sprint campus, and now with the Chiefs coming back into question a little bit, again, those Star Bonds were going to expire on June 30th, and Mark Donovan has reached out to the state of Kansas to get those extended, basically. And I think extending some leverage, essentially, because I think we all thought at this point, which I'm not going to lie, I was nervous for a minute as a Missouri resident of seeing the Chiefs move over to Kansas. There for a second it seemed a little bit dicey. It looked like the right moves had been made to keep them in Missouri, although now we're seeing this extension. Personally, I do think it's a lot of just leverage, and I'm going to get into a report on it, but I do think it's just leverage for the Chiefs, essentially, to keep that leverage. I just watched a thing about Mike Florio, or by Mike Florio, which, take how you will, but kind of saying the same thing. And, I mean, if you've lived in Kansas City long enough, or been around, either one of these teams long enough, you know that it is an easy way for either organization to kind of play, both sides of the field. Okay, well, we'll move to Kansas if you don't give us what we want. And usually that's kind of what pushes the vote forward, I think, for Jackson County. And, obviously we saw the big renovations with Kaufman, about a decade ago now? I think that was 20, maybe before that, actually. That may have been the mid to late 2000s to what got the Royals the All-Star game in, I can't remember what year that is. I keep wanting to say 2012, but I'm pretty sure that was the year the All-Star game was in St. Louis. 2015? No, 2015 was the World Series year. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember now off the top of my head when the All-Star game was held in Kansas City. But, those renovations got them that. They got them a nice Hall of Fame in left field. Also renovations to Arrowhead that we saw. And, obviously the original plans for the Truman Sports Complex was to have a rolling roof that could roll over from Arrowhead to Kaufman, or Kaufman over to Arrowhead. Now, realistically, I mean, I think we all think it would be an awesome thing to see and come to fruition from the original designs. But I don't think realistically we will ever see that happen. But let's get into a report from KMBC 9 that they put out, I think, today or yesterday when this news broke. All right, this is coming from Kansas Senate President Ty Masterson. He's calling for a meeting of the Legislative Coordinating Council to discuss this Star Bond. Chiefs President Mark Donovan sent a letter to the Senate of Kansas, expressed gratitude for the collaboration organization Kansas lawmakers have had. But even after a year of talking about it, trying to figure it out, the Chiefs need more time moving forward. We have made significant progress on the core deal components, including stadium, headquarters, practice facility, and surrounding development, Donovan said in the letter. At the same time, the complexity and scale of the project and the importance of crafting a structure that works for all stakeholders make it clear more time is needed to bring the effort to full fruition. The Star Bond legislation is set to expire June 30th. That's next week. The Chiefs said in the letter they remain fully committed to the opportunity, noting the effort and time that has gone into the process. Masterson has called for a meeting of the Legislative Coordinating Council on July 7th. So obviously that'll take place in a couple of weeks. So maybe not a ton of news this upcoming week, but we will see them discuss that the following week after the 4th of July. The letter from Mark Donovan indicates that the drive to bring his historic project to Kansas is moving down the field. Masterson said in a news release, now that we are in the red zone, the extension will provide stakeholders sufficient time to ensure the ball crosses the goal line. But Missouri isn't out of the picture. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe called a special session to advance the Show Me Sports Investment Act, which was designed to incentivize the Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals to stay in Missouri. After Kehoe signed it into law, the Chiefs expressed gratitude for the significant step forward, noting that there was still work to be done. Kansas City has made offer for the Royals downtown stadium, mayor says, hours after leaders in the Senate or in the state of Kansas announced the Chiefs requested an extension in the Star Bonds deadline. Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas said the city is looking to keep the Chiefs and the Royals within city limits. Lucas said Kansas City has made a unique, comprehensive, and unmatched offer to the Royals for a downtown ballpark. This is what Lucas had to say. Kansas City has assembled and shared with the Royals a unique, comprehensive, and unmatched offer to secure the future for the Royals downtown in what would be one of the finest, most beautiful facilities and districts in baseball, Lucas said in a statement. Kansas City continues its work with the team to create long-term real estate and development success for the Royals and the city, aligning the franchise with the transformation of Kansas City's downtown over the past generation. He also said the city will continue its active engagement to support the Hunt family's strong legacy as stewards of one of the greatest venues in all of sports to ensure necessary financing and development support. Washington Square Park is the one of the reported locations for that the Royals are interested in. Clay County leaders have also expressed interest in attracting the Royals to cross county lines. I think that's the end of that. Honestly, I think in the end, it's still kind of the same as it was in the beginning. I think the Chiefs are looking to get the Royals out. And even with the Royals buying the Sprint campus, this is one that I thought was super interesting because it was announced that they bought the old Sprint campus over in Kansas. Then immediately the team came out and said, and I think me and EDJ talked about this at one point in the last few weeks, but they immediately said that was not going to necessarily be to develop a ballpark or facilities or anything like that, which I thought was interesting. But I do also feel like the Royals are kind of frantically moving. And, it kind of goes to what I've thought all along. I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs are just trying to push the Royals out. The Chiefs want to stay put. That's where they started this at pretty firmly. Mark Donovan came out and said it. Clark Hunt, I don't know if he said it exactly, but I think Mark Donovan was more convicting in the fact that the Chiefs wanted to stay at Arrowhead Stadium. And that was the plan. And I think that's been the plan from the beginning. It's just they want the Royals out so they can develop that area. They want to be able to develop their own kind of, football Disney World inside the Truman Sports Complex and get the baseball stadium out of there, be able to create something with maybe some kind of stages. You think about now, and personally, I don't ever go to the Ford Tailgate. What is it? The Ford Tailgate District, I think? Yeah. I don't ever go over there, so I haven't honestly seen it. I know they have performances over there. It's kind of a, thing you can go over there, have something to eat, get something to drink, while you're hanging out, and I think be in a tent, for those early season games or preseason games where it's hot as hell, and also when it's cold as hell in the wintertime, or for playoff games, you can go over there. And I can't remember if you got to have a ticket or something of that nature, but so I think it'll be unchanged for a lot of people like me, or just people that go out there to tailgate, which, however you want to tailgate. Personally, I like to grill. I like to cook my own food out there, go out there right when the gates open and have a good time. A lot of people do show up and they just jet straight over to, somebody else's tailgate, or, you go. I mean, I had plenty of times this past year, actually, where, we just didn't put enough effort into our tailgating to, do anything, stop by, grab some barbecue somewhere, and hang out in the parking lot for a little bit before we go into the game. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that I see week in and week out that, park and they're heading straight over to that Ford tailgate district to hang out and do whatever. Like I said, I haven't been over there a ton. But to build something bigger up, the images they showed had, somewhat like a football field out there for, the younger fans, and, maybe having a stage as well to have some concerts in the beginning. I think it'd be a perfect setup for, you look at the Chiefs, they've hosted so many AFC championship games over the year, or over the past few years, where, you get your CBS crew maybe can sit out there, or a college game day. You look at Missouri and Kansas, they're reigniting the border war. And I do think those are in their own stadiums. Maybe bring something like that back to Arrowhead. Of course, Kansas played half of their home games at Arrowhead last season due to renovations on their home stadium in Lawrence, which I still think is kind of funny and get a chuckle out of the fact that Kansas played half of their home games in Missouri last year. But, I digress. At this point, though, I don't know. Give me your thoughts and opinions on it. But personally, I do think it's all somewhat of a front to get Missouri to give them exactly what they want. Or, maybe they do want a dome. I'm still kind of iffy on if Clark wants a dome. And EDJ's talked about this on the podcast a couple of times, of kind of it's that towing the line. You want to create your own legacy, build, this beautiful brand new stadium that looks just like every other stadium that's being built now, whether you talk about Vegas, Atlanta, LA, these kind of new modern stadiums that are, taking over to a point, and put a dome over the roof? Or do you want to keep that legacy that Lamar Hunt built, Clark's dad, obviously, with Arrowhead, and been a tradition, and one of the best venues in all of football, a venue that was designed to keep sound in. It's one of the reasons why, Kansas City holds the record for the loudest stadium in the NFL. And also, a game like that Miami Dolphins game a couple of years ago isn't going to happen in a dome. It's a lot different. You had a negative 30-degree wind chill that day. I've been out there at some of these games where it's brutal. But, at the end of the day, you get your toe warmers, get your hand warmers, wear a few layers, you're all right. Maybe get a drink or two in you and warm you up a little bit. So I don't think that it's that bad. I think it's an advantage for the Chiefs to be playing outside in January in Kansas City. I do firmly believe that. But I also understand the positives that come with the dome. You're able to host more concerts, you're able to maybe host a Super Bowl, host a Final Four. You remember that was a lot of what the rolling roof that I believe was voted on and turned down, and that was sometime maybe in the mid to late 2000s, and then we got the renovations that I talked about earlier for Arrowhead and Kauffman. But that was part of the deal, was if they got the rolling roof, there would be a Final Four here. There would be a Super Bowl in Kansas City. There would be all of these awesome, cool things. And while I do think it's great, would be great for Kansas City as a whole, you've already secured a World Cup with Arrowhead. And, there will be some, or I think right now there's some renovations being taken place for the World Cup. I do want to say, though, as a Chiefs fan, Clark Hunt is not a great owner. I don't think. It does suck that the fans and taxpayers are essentially going to end up footing the bill, or a lot of the bill, for whatever stadium it is, whether they go over to Kansas, whether they go over to Missouri. And I don't know realistically how that will affect, maybe like season ticket members and things like that, especially people that are close. Some of the guys that I sit next to every year, they are legitimately live right around the corner from the stadium. They walk to the games. A person like that, do they hold on to their season tickets if now they've got a, 20, 30, 45-minute drive in traffic? And for the Chiefs, I don't know. And I think this is more of an argument for baseball, because I think the environment that, the Chiefs have created for football is very much tailgating at the stadium. I don't think that you need to be closer to downtown, but in the same regard, you might be moving further away from downtown, maybe not further away from the airport if you go, kind of the Legends route somewhere out there. But I do think, if you go Johnson County, you're going pretty far away from the airport. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize or think about, and especially the Johnson County folks, about how far the airport is away from that. Nobody wants to travel that far. And I think that where, maybe the same-ish, I still think you're going further, because you don't really have to go that far. Once you hit the city, cut east on 70, and you're pretty much there out at the stadiums. I mean, honestly, I'm about 7 minutes away from downtown up north, and, it takes us maybe 20 minutes to get out to the stadium. Anyways, that's very nuanced, and, if you're not from here, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about anyways. So I'm going to end that on there. I do still think firmly that this is kind of just a play to extend things until they really figure out what exactly they want to do, and trying to get essentially the taxpayers pay more and more for, Clark Hunt that could probably foot the bill easily himself, or at least, get some loans taken out. I mean, I don't know, man. It sucks, and I think all of us agree as fans that are living here that it does kind of suck that we're going to have to foot the bill no matter where it goes. And I guess really, unless the Royals come to Clay County, that's really about all that I'm going to have to worry about personally when it comes to the taxing of it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals as well. Where do you think they end up? Honestly, I don't know if the Royals end up in Kansas, but I still think that the Royals have a better chance at ending up on the Kansas side than the Chiefs do. I do think, at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs stay put. I think they get their renovations. I think they get what they want at the Truman Sports Complex. They just want their own space, I think, is what it is at the end of the day. And the Chiefs are driving this from the very beginning. I mean, you look at all of the press conferences that we saw last year. Who started it? Who was introduced as like a secondary guest? We're talking about the Royals moving. But Mark Donovan, Clark Hunt speaks, and then, oh yeah, here's Sherman. He'll take over now and talk about the Royals, whatever they have to say. So it always came off to me as kind of weird that the fact that the Royals are second thoughts, and the fact that their franchise is the one that's going to move. So, again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Where the Chiefs going to end up, where the Royals going to end up. I would love to know what you think. All right, so we got UFC 317 tonight. That is going to be a huge card. I think maybe the best card of the year on paper, at least coming into it. You got Ilia Topuria moving up to lightweight to face Charles Oliveira after Islam Makhachev obviously moved up to welterweight as well. Alexandre Pantoja meets Kai Kara France. Brandon Royval versus Josh Van, which, boy, I'm pumped for that fight. Number one contender fight for the flyweight title, and getting both of those fights in one night. And shout out to Josh Van, dude. I mean, all he does is fight. Moicano meets Benil Dariush. That'll be an interesting bout. Peyton Talbot versus Felipe Lima. That is the main card. The prelims, Jack Hermansson's on the prelims. Terrence McKinney is there. Tracy Cortez. A lot of good, interesting fights. Nico Price is even on the early prelims. So you got some interesting fights throughout the night. Like 3 canceled bouts on this card. Jackson McVeigh just not able to find an opponent on this. Supposed to fight Chris Ewart. Supposed to fight Dumas. Both of those fights canceled on this card. I don't see if he got rebooked anywhere. I don't think so. past that. So, Paulo Costa also was supposed to fight Roman Kopylov on this card. I'm going to get more into that. I plan to go live before the fights like I did for UFC 316 as well. So I'm going to get into some other broader topics of MMA and the UFC, and I think you know where this is going probably. Jon Jones officially retires from the sport of mixed martial arts. Great career. Jon Jones had an absolutely terrific career. Obviously, here towards the end, we saw Jon Jones, falling victim to the duck, essentially, of Tom Aspinall, which, and I do believe his side of things. Although I do think that even in believing his side of things, that he was retired in November. I 100% believe that's what he said beforehand. But I do also think that he stretched things out to essentially hold on to the belt for half of a year. A little more than half a year, because November to, now almost July, where we got that news where Jon Jones has officially retired. I don't think that he ever wanted the Tom Aspinall fight. I don't think that he ever really planned to. Obviously, he said yes at one point and then went back on that, which, I'm not going to gripe too much on that. And maybe it is more so the UFC saying, hey, please, just come back for this one more fight. Just think about it. Just think about it. Which he did say in a tweet later on that he got asked to think about it about 1,000 times. I do believe all of that. So I do think the UFC does play a role in all of this. But, still, Jon Jones could have been more vocal. He could have done a lot of things, I think, to smooth it over with the fans. And a lot of fans, from what I've seen, engaging in discussion on this, believes that, Jon Jones kind of ruined his legacy here at the end with the heavyweight title run. And, very weak title run just in general. He beat Cyril Gane. I think we all know at this point who Cyril Gane is. He has no grappling. He's getting older. I'm not sure what age he is at this point, but the fact he got out wrestled by Ngannou, with Ngannou having a blown out knee, kind of tells you everything you need to know about Cyril Gane, in my opinion, at this point. So I was not shocked that Jon Jones beat him. I was a little bit shocked that he ran through him like he did, and then he fights Stipe, who is essentially retired himself. It's a legacy fight. I get it. I watched it. Not to say it was the greatest fight ever, but even Stipe had a couple of moments in the fight. So I don't think that the Tom Aspinall fight was ever going to happen. I didn't think that from the jump, really. But obviously, we just have a ton of hoopla surrounding this fight. But for me personally, I think Jon Jones ruined his legacy with testing positive for steroids, all of the out of the cage issues, which, that's personally, I try really hard to keep moralities out of how I'm judging a fighter, but or any athlete for that matter. What you do in your personal time, and if you're an awful person, it doesn't take away from what you did when you were on the field, in the cage, in the ring, all of that. Which, to each their own on how they judge. I do think that, when you get into GOAT talk, maybe there is a little bit of morality that you need to add into that of, especially in a sport like mixed martial arts, where, this is martial arts. You are, it's respect. It's, kind of goes back to like, Bushido type of code, samurai stuff of, that is how we measure to a point of a martial artist as well. So I think maybe you can tie that in a little bit more in this case when we're talking about martial arts that's, kind of sacred in a sense. But I think that's where Jon Jones run his legacy. The inactivity throughout his prime. And I don't like to take away too much from what guys, have done in a sense of what I'm about to say. In the fact that Jon Jones' initial run, he picked off, world-class fighter after world-class fighter. But at the end of the day, we were watching a new generation fighter fight the old generation. He fought a bunch of middleweights, essentially. And every single one of those guys ended up fighting middleweight outside of Rampage Jackson. And, Rampage is Rampage. So, but Shogun fought at 185. Vitor obviously fought at 185. Chael Sonnen, 185er. I guess Glover didn't, and Glover ended up having his run there at the end. But also the in-cage stuff, the eye pokes. I mean, the fact that John Jones literally said in an interview, "Oh, I eye poke people, and it's very illegal, and people get upset at me, but it's what I do, and I don't get in trouble for it." What are we doing? I feel like, especially after that comment, I feel like every time he eye pokes somebody in a fight, he should have been deducted a point immediately. Because what are we doing? You know. Anyways, I digress. That always bugged me with John Jones, big time. I think also when you look at the first Gus fight, I mean, I just recently rewatched the most questionable fights of John Jones' career, kind of just to be ready to talk about this stuff, and you know, basically to go back and see if it was how I remembered it. How, you know, my brain has morphed it over the years because I haven't watched any of these fights in a long time. So we look at the first Gus fight. 4-1. Gus wins that fight. Or maybe 3-2, but I don't think that John Jones did enough in the fourth round to win that round. With a minute left in the fourth round, I think it was head strikes, was 88 to... Now I'm going to get the stat wrong. 18. 88 to 18. Gus had landed 88 strikes to the head in the first, was that 19 minutes of the fight, to John Jones's 18. He controlled the pace of the fight, dictated where the fight took place, defended all of John Jones' takedowns, took John Jones down, rocked John Jones quite a few times. Gustafsson won that first fight. I mean, I feel like there's, obviously, other than the judges, who were, I don't know, blind, Dominic Reyes won that fight. He outperformed John Jones for the most part. And now I wish I could remember how exactly I scored that one, but I think I had that one 3-2. John Jones came on late in both of those fights, but he let the fight slip away so much that there's no way watching those fights that you can convince me that John Jones legitimately won either one of those fights with Dominic Reyes and Gustafsson. I do think John Jones won the Thiago Silva fight. I do think that they got that right, and obviously Thiago Santos. Now I'm getting my 205ers mixed up right now. I do think that Santos, he landed some big shots. He was compromised, obviously, in the fight, and I do think John Jones won that fight. But legacy-wise, I just don't think you can put John Jones up there as the GOAT. And I know me and EDJ talked about this. I talked about this before UFC 316 a little bit. So I kind of want to get this out and kind of be the end of, my talking point with John Jones, just because I do think that George St. Pierre is the guy that you can put ahead of John Jones. Mighty Mouse is the guy you can put ahead of John Jones. I don't know if Anderson Silva, realistically, you can put ahead of John Jones. But I also don't like to judge these fighters that stuck around too long. I'm not judging that. I'm not judging that in their, true legacy. I don't think that after the leg break, I don't want to say that Anderson Silva's career just doesn't count after that. But I mean, let's be real. How critical can you be of those fights after that? And I know he popped for steroids after the leg break, and that one also kind of is what it is to me, just because you got to recover from snapping your leg in half. That doesn't make it right, doesn't mean that he wasn't getting some type of performance boost from it or anything like that, but I don't hold that in the same regard as John Jones testing positive in the middle of his career, having weird testosterone levels. This is dated back to right after the Gustafsson fight. The first Cormier fight, his testosterone levels were weird. In what was kind of a buried article that I found not too long ago, somebody had reported about that, and saying, "Hey, why are we not talking about this?" First-hand accounts. Obviously, if you listen to Chael Sonnen, you've heard his interview on the Arohawani podcast show, whatever it is, that he definitely knew he was juicing, which, that's hearsay. I understand that. But we have the positive tests to back it up as well. So I don't know the John Jones thing. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the whole situation. Did he tarnish his legacy? Was his legacy already tarnished? And do you have John Jones as your number one pound for pound GOAT all time in the sport? And I didn't even mention Fedor, because Fedor has an argument for that as well. I know he didn't ever fought in the UFC, but going back to that time, I mean, Pride was the dominant organization during the time that he was dominating Pride, beating guys like Big Nog, Crow Cop. So I do think that there's a claim there for Fedor Emelianenko as well. So let me know in the comments below what you think. All right, that will do it for the Papa Shronos podcast this go around. I do plan to be back on Monday, I think, kind of recap the fights. We'll see how Saturday night goes, or tonight goes, I guess, with UFC 317, and if I give my takes live after the fact. But I do plan on going live tonight, so smash that like button, hit that bell to stay notified when I go live or when I post as well. Got Chiefs film breakdowns coming up for the offseason. I know I dropped that Jalen Moore one a little bit earlier, but I'm going to get into a little bit more consistent, plan or, upload schedule, whatever you want to call it, coming up to the new year, because I got a lot of Chiefs that I do want to break down some of their film. Heading into the 2025 season, I'm excited for it. It's really right around the corner. It's June 28th now. We are just a few weeks away from training camp. Leads into the preseason. I'm excited. I'm excited for this football season and football to be back. But like I said, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. Trying to get to 500 before the NFL season starts, but we're going to be ramping up the content. So if you could help me out, drop a sub, drop a like if you enjoyed the podcast. And if you're still here, I mean, come on. Obviously, you enjoyed the podcast. So if you're still here, make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music as well. Make sure you follow along with whatever platform you want to listen to. Got plenty of more coming to the YouTube channel as well. Like I said, let me know in the comments below where the Chiefs going, where the world's going, how they stand, UFC 317.